what is the best method for setting up a discus breeding system? How do you actually get discus to pair up? And finally, what is the hardest part of breeding discus? We're going to move these guys from the 75 tall to a 90 long. In this tank, there are a couple that have been pairing up. So they're staring at that cone and starting to shimmy a little. Male starts doing it and the female comes alongside. They start doing it together. That's a good indication. Now these guys are on total tap water, 8 pH, 300 ppm. They're going to go into the new tank. We're going to drop that pH and I'll go over that in the video. Alright, so this is the tank they're going to go into. This is the 90 long. I don't believe they make this tank anymore. I've had this tank for over 25 years. Sealed it twice. So it's an amazing tank to get discus to pair up. Now, do you need a tank like this? No, but I got 8 fish. So the 8 fish are going to work well in here because they're going to start pairing up and then taking territory, and that's what I want. Now, you could do it in a 50 or a 60 gallon, but you just have to cut down the number of fish because what you don't want is to come in and see them cornering a fish or killing a fish off in a corner because they're so aggressive during breeding mode. Cut that down to 4 or 5 in a 50. 2 take sides and then the one in the middle. That's to say if you have males and females. The higher the number the better because you're going to have better odds of getting pairs that way. First thing we're going to do is these filters are dormant now. They do have bacteria in them. Even though it's been 3 months without fish in this tank, I never drain the tank away. I always leave it running because there is bacteria in the system. Now I'm going to pull the filters from their existing tank and put in here and switch them out. So what I'll do is I'll put these in, and I won't necessarily hook these up in their new tank. I'll just kind of let them sit, and that way I can drop the air and get more air to this tank because I want enough air to really get flowing in this tank. Now this is hard water drain, 30 gallons. What I'm going to do is fill this up with RO water. RO has been soaking in peat, but also what I'm going to do is I'm going to add fulvic acid to it to help start the system as far as any issues, but also helps the discus relax and actually encourages them to breed. Alright, so you're going to get wet doing it. These guys have never been caught. They've been in this tank since they were little. You can kind of see. So one thing I recommend when catching discus in nets is get the finest net possible. So let's take a look at him. And then never drop the net into the tank, right? So what you want to do is you want to take the discus, get it in your hand, cradle it, and then flip it so you want to keep the net out of the water. This allows the fish to drop out and hit the tank and hit the water instead of trying to get them out of the net because that struggle sometimes breaks off spines. You just kind of want to drop them in, right? So that's kind of a secret that I've learned over the years. You know, trying to manipulate too much or trying to get the net into the tank. Basically what happens is they want to drive into the net and that's when they cause issues. So this dropping technique is great. This is one of mine I bred. And that's one thing I have to say about catching fish, especially discus, is take your time. Do not rush it, right? Take your time. The soft, fine net is the secret. Now, we try not to stress them out as much as possible, but they're fine in these nets because it's nice and wet. So even when we used to medicate fish out of water, we put them on wet towels and stuff, and we'd have them out of the water for a couple minutes. So they're fine, but you just, you know, you don't want to rush it. You want to really take your time. So same thing. We take it and we drop them, right? So never put the net in the water with this. Okay, so another thing you want to do is always make sure they're relaxed, right? So by sticking your hand under the net, they're going to relax a little because it just calms them down. So this is one of the Royal, I believe this is the Royal Cross. Same thing, we just drop it in, right? And always remove any sharp objects in the area where you're going to drop it. So you notice I cleaned the tank out, I have a wide open lid, right? Drop the water because they're still going to be sketchy, they might want to jump. So this is the best way that I've learned because I've made the mistakes, right? Really it's about that comfort of your hand under the net that gets them to relax. Okay, this is my cross from the Wild Heckle Numunda and the Red Turquoise Heckle. Okay, so that support under the net really helps him relax. So this guy was flipping around a lot. As soon as I put the hand on, he relaxed, all right? And this is a Myrtle Beach Heckle Cross. Okay, So this is the wild heckle. Now, not a big fish, so I'm using this fish for the genetics, obviously. So I want to keep this line, and I've been offered some money for this guy, but I said nope, I want to keep him. So not as far impressive as size, but size is not everything, right? It's genetics. These are pure genes that I need. You know, you got to remember these wild fish are always acclimating to our aquarium. So you have to really treat them a little different. And one of mine, this is the, I think this is the sister of the wild Namunda, heckle, and red turquoise, the ones I've bred. And you'll notice a little bit more of a brown pattern, but still a beautiful fish, and size is amazing. Personally, I prefer odd numbers. I have 8 discus. The reason why is a guy came into my room and he offered me, well, he wanted to buy all my big discus. He said, are they for sale? I said, everything's for sale. So he asked how much. I said, $3,500. He buckled. And I said, that's fine, because they're breeders anyways, they're not worth it, and they're going to make me a lot more money than $3,500, so that's fine. But he wanted one of my discus, and I said, well, I don't really want to sell just one, but if I did, it'd be $400, and he said I'd take it. So that's why I have 8 discus and not 9. The $400 I did take. It was the smallest of the group besides the wild. He wanted my big guy, and I said 600 for him, and he said no. So the 400 he took for the smallest fish in that tank, but still all top A quality fish. Now we're gonna get the tank ready. Let's get it going. All right, so also I forgot about this guy. He's the bristle nose that was in the tank. He will go into this tank. He's been medicated with them, so he's a healthy pleco, just a regular bristle nose. But the reason why I put him in this tank is so he keeps them clean. Now you're saying, why would you put a bristle nose in a breeding tank? This is not a breeding tank. This is a pairing tank. So there could be breeding in here, but the likelihood that anything's going to survive is 99% it won't. I mean, a couple might. But the point of this is to pair up so I can get them in individuals, right? Because it's best that they pair up, not me pairing up fish, because that never works, right? So he goes in. Okay, so now I have their filtration from their existing tank. Okay, let's put those in here for now, and we'll just switch these out. Now this bacteria is going to stay totally viable, doesn't have to have air. You can squeeze it out if you want, if you're worried about getting the bacteria everywhere. But this has been enough to maintain these fish for almost 6 months. So I know there's plenty of bacteria. And then what I'll do is I'll pull out this from the old fish, which still has bacteria in it. It's just not thriving colony. So it's just enough, because it just kind of goes dormant. Okay, so now I'll start putting the towers in. What you want to do is kind of get it territory. So we're going to tower here, and then we'll take a tower from this edge here and put that in the middle. What we're trying to do is cause break points in the tank, and then as they hook up, we put them into their breeding tank. So what I'm going to do here is put a little thing in the middle here so they can hide, and then you can't see it, it's probably off camera. There's another cone in this corner here. So that's going to go all the way to this end. That way they have places to pair up. And we're going to give Mr. Pleco his wood back. So now we start filling up with RO water. We're going to do probably a water change a day, about 30 gallons every day. So we'll start it up. A little secret is Amazon Gold fulvic acid. I've been using this stuff for about 2 years. The results have been amazing. And you can read about it on the website. Now, I will be selling this by the ounce. It's 1 mil per 5 gallons. This is 90 gallons, which actually nets about 80, a little over 80. I'll just do 20 mil, right? And there's really no set schedule. Just kind of when you think you've depleted it, you just add a little more. So it's not something you have to do every day. You know, it doesn't really dissipate. It does a little, the fish absorb it. So 1, 2, so 20 mil. Okay, so what is the best method for setting up a breeding system for discus? All right, one thing I highly recommend, and this is where your patience is going to come in, is buy small discus in a group. 7 to 9 at least, right? That's how I start my breeding groups. I don't go out and buy pairs because it doesn't work. I don't guess on males and females, it doesn't work. You will get lucky sometimes, but you need to go out, get a tank, buy 7 to 9. I know it sounds crazy. Get the best quality you can get. I highly recommend Myrtle because his fish that have come to me personally have all been great. Out of the 7, I would say they're all A+ Discus. Get those, grow them out, take your time, feed them quality foods, feed them 3 to 5 times a day. Quality is the key. Now, health is important too, so that's why I would recommend my foods, because these guys were all growing up from 2.5 inches on my foods and they're perfect. It's not size, right? To think that your Discus need to be 9 inches to be quality is crazy because it's so rare. Okay, a good 6-inch round solid Discus that's healthy and got a good belly on him and clear eyes and great finnage, that's kind of the goal. Okay, yes, you can part a fish to death and make it huge and make it unhealthy but make it big. That's possible. I understand, and I used to do that. So I thought size was the secret. Size has nothing to do with it. That's a personal thing that us as hobbyists are looking for, the biggest Discus. Discus aren't naturally, there's no such thing as a huge Discus. Once they hit their maximum length, then they can just get a little thicker, and that's kind of what we want. As they get to that year, we want to stop seeing them grow this way and start seeing them grow out a little bit. But they're compressed, okay? So I highly recommend 7 to 9 small Discus if you want to be successful in breeding. This is about quality fish to the public, for people that want quality, that will pay top dollar, and that way it makes my time worth it to do this. I would suggest 3.5 to 4-inch Discus because the work's been done at that point. When you get them to that point, it's pretty easy. It's a couple of feedings a day, 3 good feedings a day, and they'll grow normal. Lots of water changes. And the reason for the water changes is because you're feeding so much, you want that water quality to stay high. Is it helping them grow? Yes, because of the great food you're feeding them, but the water is really there to make sure you're not fouling the tank and causing issues. And if you want a good system for breeding Discus, you got to have empty tanks, okay? You just saw my video where I was downsizing. The reason why I was downsizing, because I still probably have over 150 fish in this room, but I know that once these things start breeding, that I'm going to have, a couple thousand, 4,000, 5,000 fish. I have to have empty tanks to make that work. I can't add more tanks than 250 square feet. I have 35 tanks. That's what's going to fit. And I'm not expanding out. This is what works. This is the perfect size. This is what I can manage with everything else going on in my life. So I would say that if you're going to want to breed Discus, you have to have multiple tanks. Probably at least 5 or 6 is a good one, because you're going to have to pull out for quarantine if there's an issue. You're going to have to grow out fry. And so there's all different reasons why you always want extra tanks around. I hardly ever have all 35 tanks full, but if I do, it's time to remove some fish, and that's by selling to my local fish store or to people locally, my fish club. That's how that works. I don't always want all my tanks full. I always want empty tanks. It's about 50 to 60% full, and then 40% I want empty. That's just the way I run it, and when I get maxed out, then it's sell, 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 sell. Okay? So when you saw that downsizing video, it wasn't that I was getting out of the hobby or that I was having issues or anything like that, or I wasn't able to maintain it. It was that I knew this was coming, so I had to prepare for this. Okay, so how do you get Discus to pair up? Right here. Now, this is 8 Discus in a 90-gallon, but the key to this tank is its length. It's a 6-foot tank. That's the secret. It gives them territories, okay? Now, like I said, you can use a 50-gallon and make it work with 4 or 5 Discus and make that work. But if you have 10 Discus, you might want to split those up into 2 50-gallons. Because what we're looking for is natural pairing. So now you've they've grown up together because they're in the same tank. So there's no more aggression. They know their hierarchy. They know the wolf pack. They know who's top. They know who's bottom. They know where everybody sits, and they probably know males and females by now. So that has all been taken care of through the grow out stage. Now, it's pairing up time. It's the females. Females have to become gravid. That is the only way the males will really be attracted to them, is when they get those hormones in the water and they know a fish is carrying eggs. The males will start going crazy. Now, I've created a new food for the adults, right? You saw my optimal growth for my fry, and here's the thing: you can use optimal growth on the parents or the adults, because it's like 50% protein, which is about what we want. Now, for breeding, I have to up that protein and I have to up that fat a little bit. My goal for breeders is 60-10, 60 protein and 10 fat, because the females have to produce those eggs. And if you want great spawns, like 250 eggs, they have to have that fat in their system, right? And that protein has to be there. They cannot spawn and be healthy with pellets. It's not going to work. Is it possible? Yes, but they're going to go down quick, and the fry aren't going to be as healthy because they can't take the nutrients off the parents. So the new foods I created are 60-10, and I will show you, and they're fed through the bell. Here's the thing: when I feed the youngsters, I like to use the black worms because of the high protein, and they really go for those worms, and I can really tell if they're not eating right, because if they're not eating those black worms, something's wrong. Okay? At this stage, I move to brine shrimp cubes. So that's the first thing that goes in the bell, is the brine shrimp cube. This is, and then the high protein mix goes underneath it, and that's what spreads out through the tank so everybody can eat, especially in a tank like this, right? We want to make sure that that food is circulating through the whole tank, because territories are starting to happen. We don't want to just feed pellets over here and then there's a pair here and they dominate the food. We want that food to circulate. And I tell you guys over and over again that we need to get that food into the water column. It's not about putting a couple pellets in and thinking that's okay for these fish, because it's just not going to work. So the next thing I'm going to do is to get these guys to pair up is dropped at 30%. pH is hard. It's a 300 ppm, 8 pH, right? I'm throwing in neutral water at almost 0. It's probably 12 ppm, okay? That's not going to do it right away, but the fulvic acid is going to help that. But over time, what I'm going to do is drop that pH. I'm going to drop it to almost like a 5.8, 5.5, right? That's kind of mimicking their natural habitat in the Amazon. Is the dry season, pH drops. That's not when they're breeding. And then what I'll do is I'll start dropping 10% and putting my tap water back in. And that will trigger them to spawn. Because it's not the lowering of the pH that gets them to spawn, it's the raising of the pH. Now I don't want to get them back to an 8, but I'd like to get them to that 5.5 to a 6.6 to a 6.8. Perfect. They breed in 7, no problem. So that mimics their natural habitat. That's how you get Discus to spawn, is drop the pH low, you know, nothing below 5. Stay in that 5 range if you can. But a 6.6 are just going to kind of sit there until they just are ready. But by dropping it to a 5.8, 5.5 and then raising it back up to a 6.6, that's the trigger for them to say, oh, it's time to spawn. That's the rainy season. The runoff is higher calcium content and more oxygen. So we want to bump up the oxygen a little bit too. That's just kind of how we do it. We just kind of say, how does it work in the wild? And we try to get as close as we can in the tank. So great food and pH swings. Okay, what's the hardest part about breeding Discus? I've bred thousands and thousands and thousands of Discus, right? The hardest part is not breeding. The fish, that's what I love about the Discus. And the first time you breed Discus and you see those parents with those babies on their side, and they're taking care of those parents and they're shaking and those babies are going from parent to parent. Even though I've done it so many times, every time I see it, I still get blown away. So breeding is not hard. What I've told you will get them to breed. Will they be successful every time? Not at all. You're gonna have failures. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 times till they get it and then they start to breed. I've had parents that have bred the first time. I've had parents that have taken 10 times to breed. So patience, again, is very important. Let me turn this water off. Alright? So very important. Let's plug this back in. Some water flow. So, what is the hard part? It's the growing them out. It is freaking a pain in the butt, right? And if you mess up, you basically doom that fish because no one's going to buy a stunted fish. You can sell them, but then your reputation is you sell stunted fish, right? You're not going to get good money. It's not going to be worth the time you put into it. So I would highly recommend that if you are going to breed discus, learn how to grow out discus. It's not growing out a guppy, it's not growing out a pleco, it's not growing out a rainbow fish, it's growing out a discus. Big difference. You know, people say, oh, I grow my arowana in a 150 gallon tank, why wouldn't I be able to grow discus? You grow a discus in a 150 gallon tank from a fry, it basically will stunt out, no guarantee, right? I start mine in 20s, I go to 29s, and then they get to 3 inches, they go into a 50. And I keep those numbers low. They start off, if I get 150 to 200 in a spawn, they still go in that 20 until they're starting to grow a little bit. And as soon as they start looking like discus, I split them in half, get them in 220s, right? And then warm. They will gotta be warm. If you want to grow discus right, just keep them warm, okay? So the hard part is not breeding. They kind of take care of it. You just set up the conditions. The hard part is growing out. So if you want to be in the discus world, you want to try breeding fish, which is not hard. It's not hard. It just takes time and patience. But you better learn how to grow them properly, and what to feed them, and how to feed them, and when to feed them, and when to water change, and what size tanks to keep them in. Keep them close together. Keep them warm. So those are all secrets on growing the discus, right? Because once you get them to breed, the work begins, okay? So breeding, not hard. Just kind of do what I do and do what you do and read other articles and watch other videos and just take tidbits from everybody. And that's how you breed discus, right? People are doing it all the time now. But really it's about the pH swings and stuff like that. That's what really triggers them. But if they're not healthy and the mom's not getting great food, they're going to struggle. Okay, so what I want to do is make this process, I want to take you guys on this process. Now, it could take 6 months until the first spawn, right? So don't be in a hurry. But I'm going to take you on little updates here and there. So that's what I want to do with this. And that's kind of why I reset my room. Because I get all kinds of questions and I'm always in the middle of breeding, right? So I can't take it from the start and really realize what I've actually done. But also what this is going to do is document it for me in the future. If I'm having problems, I can look back and say, oh, that worked, oh, that's why I did that, oh, that makes sense, right? So that's kind of the process. They're going to come probably once a month, right? Unless something big happens. Something big happens, I'll make a video of it. But I want you guys to understand that I did this for YouTube, but also for me to learn in the future so I can watch back these videos. Alright, so I want to talk about the cubes for the bell system, okay? So, with the juveniles, I use blackworms. They're expensive. Here's the problem with the blackworms, is Australia had a heat wave and the farms are shutting down. So they're almost impossible to get. I just bought 2 kilos of the blackworms. So once they're gone, and I don't know when they're coming back. Probably into summer. Obviously their seasons are different than ours, but so they're in recovery mode right now for about 2 months. So hopefully in a couple months they'll be back. So I bought 2 kilos because that's all I could afford right now as far as blackworms. And it was hard to get, and the price did go up. Okay, but I tried to keep them as the same as I could. They went up slightly. What's up? I'm working. Yeah.
No, you're not.
No, I am. Say hi. Say hi, Lily.
Hi.
No, you gotta come up here. Let's see.
Ooh. Hi.
Bye. Okay, out. All right, so blackworms for the youngsters. For the adults, I moved to the brine shrimp cubes. They're still 50%, good quality, right? But more cost affordable as far as pricing. I can get these all day long. They're local to me. I don't have to worry about them running out. So when these go, then we'll just have to switch to the brine, right? Okay, so let me show you how I feed these guys. So you know with the little guys, it's optimal growth. And if you look at it, it's 56, 10, almost 11, right? So a little bit higher fat because I want them growing. So I'm always trying to get to that 60, but I kept the protein a little lower on for the little guys. But now I've gotten this, and I've been working on this for 6 weeks. And I wanted to get a 60-10. That's what I wanted for the breeding adults. Now these are young adults, so they're going to be, you know, breeding here in a little. But I got to start prepping them, and I got to start getting those females full of eggs. All right, so Protein Plus. It is for the young adults to get ready for breeders. 61.6 protein. You could do, so remember on these we're doing the brine shrimp on the adults now. So 1 cube is all you need. You can do 2 if you want. One thing I gotta say about the brine shrimp is it's a little more messy, which isn't a bad thing because it just gets throughout the tank. So they eat it all up, right? And we just take our brush, and it smashes down way easier, but we're trying to fill those holes up. That's what we're trying to do, is get those holes. And it's not going to be like the worms where it protrudes out. They have to really fight to get it out, okay? And then what we do is we take the Protein Plus and the spoon you get. Now, with the Protein Plus, we don't have to shake it because it's all really coarse food, right? And you can feed this to juniors too. They'll eat it. They'll just chew on it. So I'm going to give them probably 2 because I want this to be their feeding for the day. So they'll eat this until it's gone. It'll probably take a little bit longer because obviously we've just moved them. And you kind of see they're huddling in that corner. So but let's see if they come out for this food at all. See what happens. If you want to see where I started on taking the room down and why I did it, watch this video here on downsizing the fish room. It'll kind of explain what I was thinking at the moment, and now this will kind of make more sense as far as this video, what you're seeing today. All right, take care guys, bye.